Greetings, ladies and melogents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet, read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called They Have Edge Cases, written by efaviel. Humans were a curious species. Their technology had developed in ways we didn't quite comprehend, and their physiology seemed unnaturally weak for a species originating from a Deathworld. Many were overweight, slow, and intellectually lacking. Their muscles underdeveloped. At least, that's what our records stated. Our species was methodical, intelligent, organized, and excellent at gathering and interpreting data. Because of this, we possessed the largest databank in the universe. We had methodically classified and organized information on every species and event we could find. This had made us the apex species. Unlike most races that had reached space, our kind had evolved for intelligence. So, when we learned that humanity had somehow achieved instant galactic teleportation, we were taken back. Their minds should not have been capable of such a feat, even with the assistance of their computing machines. We've hastily revisited our previous analysis. Had we miscalculated something? Perhaps our numbers concerning their social trajectory were inaccurate. Their computing systems were not projected to be sophisticated enough to solve this issue for at least 8,000 years. And by then, we predicted that their kind would have gone extinct due to warfare. We had never been wrong before. Therefore, despite humanity being a relatively small race of only 12 billion that had barely colonized their solar system, our entire government kept a wary eye on them. Not because instant teleportation was dangerous or special, but because it should have been impossible for them to develop it. We reviewed our data on humanity and noticed that most of it was from the last 100 years. Though this duration was usually sufficient to calculate the species' social trajectory, the realization of our error called for an expanded investigation. We sent a scientific ship to their system. Instant teleportation had exposed them to the extensive spectrum of galactic trade, which was evident when we arrived. We observed ships from dozens of major races waiting outside human space, poised to dock and make contact. "Sorry for the wait, guys. We're swamped trying to manage all these ships." The human communicator's voice carried a note of frustration, yet he tried to maintain a friendly tone. The mix of emotion had us further questioning our data about their managerial capacities. However, their subsequent request for help understanding our communication protocol raised new questions regarding their technological abilities. If they had mastered teleportation technology, they should have been able to instantly process the protocol data we sent. The possibility that they could have taken the technology from somewhere else began to appear more plausible. A scientist from a different race might have sought refuge on their planet. Despite occasional accurate predictions about human behavior, their possession of teleportation technology remained inexplicable. We continued to explore their world, encountering physical evidence aligning with our original hypothesis. They were indeed an apex of their world, but their comfortable existence had left them physically weak and intellectually stagnant. They seemed to have devolved after establishing an advanced society while becoming reliant on their insufficiently powerful computers for organization and operation. The incongruity between their technological achievements and their apparent intellectual capacities was baffling. Human point of view. Feck. Some Traxic ship has been waiting for about a month to get in contact with us. Crap has been a mess since Daniel discovered subspace teleportation. First, the gas licks just appeared out of space, offering us access to the technological knowledge. Then the Schlick arrived, and it just kept getting more and more overwhelming. We only have one port capable of receiving galactic ships, and it wasn't built for such frequent use. Galactic ships are massive. I mean, fecking massive. They can't approach a planet. Moreover, they dock with an astonishing violence. Other species have refined their material engineering to such an extent that this sort of violence doesn't cause any damage. However, our ships are built with the metals that we can synthesize, which apparently aren't strong enough to withstand such a force. The Traxic finally docked. They had long necks adorned with metals and floating orbs that accompanied them. Each Traxic had an organic brain and a synthetic one, connecting them to something. Standing tall and muscular, they looked identical, so we distinguished them by their wireless signals. Fortunately, they had built an interface with our AR systems, allowing us to see their name, rank, and signature when we met them. Our negotiator, Anna Reed, a wise woman who had garnered the nickname The Diplomat during her rigorous tenure at Harvard, was our beacon of hope. Her resilient spirit and sharp intellect gave me confidence, knowing that she was always found a way to bridge gaps where others only saw chasms. Point of view, Anna Reed. As our meeting commenced, the Traxic ambassador stared at me, or rather, at the spot several inches above my head, which I had come to understand as a Traxic version of eye contact. They bluntly asked questions regarding how we developed the teleportation system. They weren't buying my hesitant explanation, and their second synthetic brain, which must have been their version of AI, kept analyzing all my responses. Your society's overall intellectual capabilities are incapable of this, one of them said. Their voices had a tone of certainty often found in scientists, at least based on our studies, so how come? Daniel Mitchum figured it out, I interrupted. Obviously, we have geniuses. That's how most of our technology is developed. You have what? One of the Traxic emissaries, Lenar, their lead scientist, reacted with disbelief to my statement about humanity's geniuses. Geniuses? Every once in a while, a human is born with processing abilities far beyond the norm. They are the ones who drive our innovation, push our boundaries, and redefine what humanity is capable of. I gestured towards a giant screen with a list of achievements. When they asked about his intelligence, I showed them a graph of the various living geniuses that we had and where they stood in regards to IQ. Momentary silence passed over the Traxic dignitaries, their sensory appendages all seemingly frozen in surprise. But that makes no logical sense, one of them rumbled. All scientist species are encouraged to have a specific standard of intelligence established at the evolutionary level. No individual should diverge from this limit that markedly. Yes, exactly. That's why we call them geniuses. I was starting to question their intellect. Weren't they supposed to be the most advanced race in the galaxy? Daniel figured it out. He's very good at physics. Don't you guys have individuals who are really good at something and invent a bunch of stuff or advance science and maths? No! All of our advancements are a group effort. Are you telling me humans rely on random individuals to make things? Are you telling me your kind has individuals capable of advanced intellect? How do you develop these people? Are they a sub-race of humanity? They seemed confused and, for some reason, angry. Were geniuses not a thing outside of humanity? No, they're just randomly born. Daniel, for example, has normal parents. A mechanic has a father and an elementary school teacher is a mother. Their IQ are within normal range. Most of our geniuses kind of randomly show up. The Traxic began to argue amongst themselves and ended the meeting early. Then they left. I was confused about their reaction. All the other races seemed to just want to establish trade or to build teleportation pods between our worlds. The Traxic, being the rulers of the galaxy, we were hoping would open trade with us. But for some reason, they seemed obsessed with trying to understand how our kind made it this far. They later asked for access to multiple genius humans so they could dissect, which we obviously refused. From then on, the relationship between the humans and Traxics grew cold. They accused us of lying and hiding information, and eventually they labeled us unnatural. They shared a document about us across the universe with a title I did not expect. They have edge cases. End of story. Story number 2. And then there were the Americans, written by Vivid Membership 3959. Most governments had come to an understanding long before they even left their planets. Before the most advanced technology was a steam engine. Heck, most places knew this at the times of castles and pike. Militaries aren't worth it. It might feel worth it to an up-and-coming government, but as soon as they would start to militarize, one of two things would happen. They either got taken over by the surrounding nations getting scared of the attack, or they are able to take over their neighbors, and then all their military is doing is creating a way for someone to overthrow their government. So, they will start demobilizing. There were outliers, yes, but the most extreme out of the 11 so far in the Orion Arm have all shared a similar government, military, and economic structure, so we assumed that it was the same way that all governments would function. But then the Americans came to overthrow our ideas that have been quite stable for a long time. A probe found Earth, a small blue marble holding a monster on its surface. A ship was sent for more information. And what was found was, it sent the entire way of life that was known up to that point into a spiral of confusion and doubt. For on the world, we found one nation that managed not only to outclass ours, but half the known races' militaries combined. Luckily, it was an outlier even in their home world. Yet, they still only accounted for around half their world army. The United States of America single-handedly had the largest blue water navy, white water navy, air force, naval, air force, ground support, army, and armor corps, and so on. They were spending 25% of their entire budget on their army, and yet they had one of the highest standards of living in the known universe at the time, only behind their allies that, if their militaries worked together, could manage to stand toe-to-toe with the rest of the known universe's armies at the time. Containment procedures were put into place. No one was allowed to sell FTL technology to the humans, and everyone agreed to only buy what they needed. However, I somehow doubt that the 15 ships filled with home furniture, computers, and most infuriatingly military equipment that had been screened by the occasional patrol vessels were needed. I finally turn up from my speech and give a glance to the room of kings and queens who have all conveniently found a new fondness for the pictures of the founders in the center of the room. However, that is not the main point I wish to talk about. Instead, it is the fact that after the general population heard rumors of a place where their work hours were limited, slavery was banned, and government was accountable to their people, 172 ships that were crewed with only a few guards and then a large amount of commoners and even slaves had stopped communicating with us and managed their way to Earth, all of them, with some form of FTL. If the humans stand up to their morals and are as fast at constructing as we have seen before, we only have these few weeks to prepare our forces to wipe out the humans' dreams of spacefaring. Yet, before I was able to finish my speech to form an attack team on the humans, an assistant silently brought a slip of paper and handed it to me. I pick it up and skim over the report, a fear slowly rising in my chest. On it was a picture of a standard trading ship with a line of huge letters in the human language, the usual insignia that showed the house or clan it belonged to, having instead been replaced with 50 stars and 13 stripes. A standard trade ship that has been outfitted with pieces of military equipment that, if not on par with our own, is only a step behind it. The room goes quiet as the projector shows the image to the rest of the room, the cards falling down around us. End of story. I would just quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Dragon Soup, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Red Panda 121, Leslie 517, Bushmaster 177, Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Sans the Skeleton, Lightjock, Dragzoon WRE, and Lord Azrikol. Thank you very much.